Okay. Now we're going to take a look at another piecewise function. We can actually see that this is broken down into 3 different pieces. So we'll have one piece, we'll have this piece right here, and then we'll have this third piece right here. Let's take a look. Can we see, do you think we can figure out along which lines does this break? So we can see that this graph is from -3 to 0. So this first piece is going to be from -3 This is a terrible vertical line, but it's just here to help us out. From -3 to 0. So this origin, this y-axis right here. And then the second piece is from 0 to 5. And then the third piece is for everything bigger than 5. So we know that this middle part right here should look like x plus 3 squared. We know that this piece right here should look like the graph of -x. And then this piece over on the right-hand side should look like x minus 10. So let's start by graphing this first piece right here. The piece which is, we're going to have our x values, which those x values are going to be between -3 and 0. And then our y value is going to be x plus 3 squared. So I already have 2 points. I want to try -3. And if I plug in -3, I get y is equal to -3 plus 3 squared. Well, -3 plus 3 is 0. 0 squared is 0. Now I'm going to give you a second to think about it. With this point, since it's less than or equal to, do you think it will get a closed circle or an open circle? Since it's less than or equal to, this should get a closed circle there. So at the point -3, 0, this gets a closed circle. And now I want to test this other point, which is where this graph ends, which is 0. So when I plug that in, I get y is equal to 0 plus 3 squared, which is 3 squared, which is 9. Now, is the point 0, 9 going to get an open or a closed circle? Since this one is just less than, that will be an open circle. So at the point 0, 9, that one's going to get an open circle. And now it looks like this might be a straight line, but it's actually, this is a parabola because you see that squared right there. Remember that parent function is a parabola, so this may not be exactly right, but that's that's what it should be looking like, is a parabola between -3 and 0. Now let's take a look and graph our second point, which is -x. So we have our x values, and then we're going to have y is equal to -x. Our x values are between 0 and 5. When we plug in 0, well, y is equal to -0, so y equals 0. Y equals 0, we're going to have this point 0, 0. Is that going to be an open or a closed circle? Think about it for a second. Since it's less than or equal to, this is going to get a closed circle at the point 0, 0. Now let's test out our other end point, which is 5. When we plug 5 in here, we're going to get y is equal to -5, right? So we have the point 5, -5. Take a look over here, opened or closed circle. Since this is just x is less than 5, we're going to put the point 5, -5, and it is going to get an open circle right here. Again, if that was less than or equal to, it would be a closed circle. Y equals -x is a line, so this is going to be a straight line from here to here. All right, we've got one more piece to graph, and it is this graph. We're going to have our x's, and our x's are going to be, our x's are the values greater than or equal to 5, and then for our y values, we have y is equal to x minus 10. So we want to pick, let's start at 5. Let's test 5 out in here. So when we plug that in, it's going to be y is equal to 5 minus 10, which is -5. So the point 5, -5, where is that? that's right here, it's at right where that last one ended up. Is that going to get an open or a closed circle? When we take a look over here, this is values greater than or equal to 5. So that gets a closed circle. It actually fills it in. The last one left it open, but since this graph picks up at the exact same spot, we're going to fill that circle in. And now we'll pick another point bigger than 5. How about 6? We get y is equal to 6 minus 10, which is negative 4. So I'm going to plot the point 6, negative 4 on the graph right here. Now we're ready to continue that graph this way. And there's my piecewise function. I can see it has the 3 pieces right here. Now let's take a look at the domain of this graph. The domain are going to be the x values. And so when we start reading left to right, we go along here, we can see that the first x value we have is a closed circle right here at negative 3. So that's going to be our first x value, and we can see, okay, I got an open circle here, but it picks right back up at 0, and then I have an open and a closed circle, so it keeps going and keeps going. So it looks like this graph goes from negative 3 to positive infinity. So the domain of this graph is negative 3 to positive infinity. Now, it says find the range. Remember, the range is the y values. So when we take a look at the y values, we're going to go down to up. It seems like the lowest point I see on the graph is right here at negative 5. So negative 5 is going to be the lowest point. It's going to get a square bracket because you can see I have a filled in circle right here. Now, this is a little confusing. It looks like I have a highest point here, but I got to be careful because since this arrow is pointed up and it's going to keep going, eventually it's going to surpass what's over here. So even though it looks like this negative 9 might be the highest point on the graph, it's just because we can't see the whole range. If we continued this line up and up and up and up and up, we can see that this is going to go all the way up to positive infinity. So the range of this graph is negative 5 to positive infinity. Last thing we have in this part is increasing and decreasing. So increasing is where this graph is going up from left to right. We can see that this piece right here is in fact increasing. So if we're talking about increasing, it's going to start increasing at, what is this x value right here? Increasing from negative 3 up to, it increases all the way up to here. Now it's tempting to say negative 9 or positive 9, but positive 9 is not where this stops increasing. We use the x values. So it increases from negative 3 to 0 is that x value. Is there another place where this is increasing? Yeah, there is. This piece over here is also increasing. So it's also increasing from, what is this x value? 5. And this piece goes on forever, so it's going to increase from 5 to infinity. Those are the two pieces, this one right here and this one right here, where it's increasing. Now when we talk about decreasing, where would those be? That is this piece right here. What are those x values? Think about it for a second. Well, the x value where it starts decreasing is 0, and the x value where it stops decreasing is 5. So this is decreasing from 0 to 5.